Derek Coble called me. Derek's a preacher up at West Sparta. He wants me to be part of their summer series. So I agreed. And then he told me what they were talking about. And they're studying through the book of Proverbs. And one of the ways to do that is studying it by subjects. He said, I want you to go to the book of Proverbs and talk about be careful what you say. Be careful what you say. I said, I'll do that, but I'm going to be careful what I say. So I'm going to do that. And how would you do it? You know, I thought of a little song we sing, the little children vacation Bible school song. And we sing, be careful, little mouth, what you say. For the Father up above is looking down with love. Be careful, little mouth. You know, we talk about hands and eyes what you see and hands what you do and ears what you hear. So be careful, little mouth, what you say. There's another song we sing in our songbook. Angry words, oh, let them never from the tongue unbridled slip. May the heart's best impulse ever check them ere they soil the lip. Words can just get out quicker than we want. That connection, you know, the mouth is right up here close to the brain. And sometime, boy, as soon as we think and we say, and then if we'd have thought a little longer, if we could have just stopped and had a little more space, we wouldn't have said that. And words can get us in bad trouble real fast. And it's hard to pull them back. Once they're said, it's hard to pull those words back. So it's a good topic on be careful what you say. Bill Turner's gone to his reward, but Bill Turner was talking to me, and he had his own little proverb about words. He said, the tongue is in a wet, slick place, and it's easy to let it slip. That's pretty good, isn't it? So be careful what you say. Well, how would you go to the book of Proverbs to talk about that? How would you approach a study like that? And the chapter on the tongue is James chapter 3. Well, there's 18 verses in James chapter 3 about the tongue. The tongue is an unruly evil. The tongue can no man tame. No, you're familiar with those from James 3. Well, here's what I did. I went through the book of Proverbs and opened it up. It's 31 chapters, and it's not so hard to do. I just read through the book of Proverbs with a pad and a pencil or a pen. And every verse that had something to do with this topic, I just wrote it down as I came to it. Just wrote down the verse and just enough lines to kind of help me remember what that verse was saying. And I looked at that. Well, then I looked at all those, and I tell you, there are, I think it's 13 verses, 18 verses in James chapter 3 on the tongue. I went through the book of Proverbs, and I had written down over 100 verses in Proverbs about the tongue, about being careful what you say. Well, how do you cover 100 verses? Well, I'm not going to do it. I might end this lesson another night. I'll start on it tonight. I may not even do that. I may just kind of show you how this works, and then you can follow it out from there. But I went through and I categorized those 100 verses. I took the first one that showed up about being careful what you say, and it was about being froward with words. So I thought, well, let me look at all of the verses that have to do with being froward or perverse. And I pulled all them under there, and then went to the next one that I hadn't included in that group. And the next one was about how your words can be a snare. So I went through it and pulled all those, and I wound up going until I covered them all and put them in these 8 categories. Now, that's not perfect because some of these verses bleed over into more than one category or another, but that's how I tried to do it. So let's go through those. I won't get through all 8 of them tonight. I'll get through a part of them, and we'll see. But that first one on froward, this is the first verse that I found had to do with being careful what you say in the book of Proverbs. And I had to separate this from the ones on being careful what you hear. So there's those, but this has to do more with what you say. And Proverbs 4:23, put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. So much in Proverbs talking about what you say. It's going to talk about the mouth and the tongue and the lips. It'll be amazing how many times that comes up, so you can almost see this happening. So put away a froward mouth. Have any idea what froward means? That's not a word we use very much. It's used often in the book of Proverbs. So that's good. Let's start off. What are we talking about? Froward. Well, there's parallelism. This is one of the ways you can find what the Bible teaches, particularly in the poetic parts. Look how that verse says, put away from thee a froward mouth and perverse lips put far from thee. Well, a froward mouth has something to do with perverse lips. You might be a little more familiar with the word perverse than you are froward. But that parallelism should kind of give you some idea then what froward might mean. I looked up translations. I got this website I can go to, and it'll throw out, 30 or 40 English translations. And so I just went through that. How do they translate the word froward in other translations? Froward is an old word that we don't use much, but some of the modern speech try different words. Here's some they came up with. Froward, wayward, deceitful, misleading, false, dishonest, corrupt, crooked, bent, perverse, twisted. A lot of English words for that word. It shows maybe that we don't have a word that exactly fits what the old Hebrew word was, froward. Those are some they've tried. I looked at the Hebrew lexicons. Now, lexicon's kind of like a dictionary where you look up a word and you look up a Hebrew word in that dictionary. What lexicons really do is what dictionaries should be doing, and they tell you how the word is used. It's not necessarily a definition as it is, now this is how this word is being used. So, the lexicons, crooked, distorted, froward. Think crooked, distorted. And that's what made me think of 2 Peter 2 and verse 3. Through covetous they shall with feigned words make merchandise of you. Pretend words. And particularly 2 Peter 3 and verse 16. They that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they also do other scriptures unto their destruction. What does it mean to wrest something? Well, it's twisted. It's twisted. And so when you think of froward, think of something that's been bent. It's been twisted. It doesn't mean exactly what maybe it sounds like it means. Maybe it means that, but it didn't sound like it meant that. And so there's some deception here, isn't there? Put away from thee a froward mouth. Don't talk like that. Don't talk in twisted words and perverse words. Don't use that. Don't use perverse lips. So let's look at some of these Proverbs here. And I won't go into detail on all of them. Some of them we'll just read, but some of them I'll point out something I thought was interesting there. Here's Froward Words. Proverbs 6:12. A naughty person. That's a word I learned when I was a little bitty boy. Naughty. That's naughty. And I kind of had an idea what naughty meant. So a naughty person, a wicked man, walketh with a froward mouth. Froward. Twisted. That's just naughty. That's wicked. To use a froward mouth. Don't use froward words, froward speech. Proverbs 10:31. The mouth of the just bringeth forth wisdom, but the froward tongue shall be cut out. Well, you don't want your tongue cut out, do you? But that kind of helps you see what froward is, since it's compared with the just. There's something unjust about being froward, isn't there? Okay? Proverbs 10:32, the next verse. The lips of the righteous know what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked speaketh frowardness. Well, whatever it means, it's something that's not acceptable, is it? It's just not acceptable. These proverbs, these parallels, sometimes these proverbs they're kind of like catchy sayings, like a clever little saying there. Sometimes they're almost like a riddle. You have to think, now what is that? What's the riddle here that we're trying to solve? They're true, but they're not in the sense of being true absolutely. Sometimes they're true under these given circumstances. In another circumstance, it might not really apply. So you got to know how to use that proverb in that way. So kind of watch for these. Here's one, Proverbs 16:28. A froward man soweth strife, and a whisperer separateth chief friends. I'm going to get down to the talebearer later, but think of a whisperer. Say something. Get you here. And what are you doing? Well, be careful, those whisperers. They're giving you twisted words, and they may not mean exactly what you think they mean. So be careful about, and don't us be doing that. That's the point. Don't us be speaking this way. Proverbs 16:30. Oh, another thing about Proverbs. Every verse almost stands alone, don't they? I mean, it's almost like they're in there at random. You can take a proverb and almost print it out and stick it on the refrigerator as a thought for the day kind of thing. The Proverbs, they work that way. So let's go down the next one. Proverbs 16:30. He shutteth his eyes to devise froward things. Moving his lips, he bringeth evil to pass. Can't you just see that? What can I say? What can I say to make this turn out evil? Just see, I got to think this one through. Shut your eyes to come up with a froward way of explaining this to bring about evil is what they do. It may not be that they said something untrue, but they said it in a way that twists the truth. Proverbs 17:20. He that hath a froward heart findeth no good, and he that hath a perverse tongue falleth into mischief. Well, that's why you got to be careful. It'll get you in trouble. Perverse and froward kind of go together, and you'll see that parallel through here. But where does it come from? If you have a froward tongue, if you have froward lips, if you have a froward mouth, the trouble's in the heart. A froward heart. So if you're twisted in your heart and how you're thinking, it's going to come out in how you're speaking. Proverbs 19:1. Better is the poor that walketh in his integrity than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool. The word perverse there instead of froward, but that word kind of goes with it. Proverbs 23:31 through 33. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. Now this is talking about wine that has fermented into alcohol. Okay, don't look at it. Don't look at it. Doesn't say don't drink it, does it? Don't even look at it. Don't desire it. If it's going to cause you to be intoxicated, just I'm not even going to look at that, because I don't even want to get close to that. Here's what it'll do to you. At the last, it biteth like a serpent and stingeth like an adder. Thine eyes shall behold strange women, and thy heart shall utter perverse things. Boy, I heard some perverse things in my career. The guys used to like to go out in the evening, and we'd sit down, and the next thing I know, some of them was drinking. And they'd say some of the most outlandish things when they started drinking that they wouldn't have said if they were sober. That's what it'll do to you. Perverse things. And so be careful what you say. I tell you, be careful what you drink. You don't want to come under that influence, or you'll say things you wished you hadn't said. Now, let's go to the snare. That was the second category. As I put these only in the order in which they showed up. So after looking at Froward, I went reading down, got to Proverbs 6, 1 and 2. My son, if thou be surety for thy friend, you know what that is, a surety? Yeah, I'll back you up. I'll co-sign that loan. See? That's what it means to be surety. Okay? If thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth. Thou art taken with the words of thy mouth. You snared, you put yourself into this trouble. You said it. That, yeah, if he can't pay, I'll pay it. Now, you've trapped yourself. Don't do that. Don't let your own words ensnare you. Be careful what you say. Here's Proverbs 12:13. The wicked is snared by the transgression of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. See, the just, he's not going to say those things. He's himself caught up and ensnared by that. He'll be careful what he says. The snare. Proverbs 18:6-7. A fool's lips enter into contention. You ever know people just like to just cause trouble? They just love contention. A fool's lips enter into contention. His mouth calleth for strokes. I mean, it's like he's been asking for it. Talking like he's asking for it, okay? So he calleth for strokes. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. Caught by what he said. Proverbs 21:23. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. If you could just learn not to say things. Just keep your mouth. Just, sometimes people, well, I got to say something, but you don't always have to say something. Just keep your mouth, and you can save yourself a lot of trouble by controlling that tongue. And one of the best ways to control it is just don't let it out. Don't let it say things. Keep the lips closed. So keep your mouth and tongue and keep your soul from trouble. Proverbs 29:30. Seest thou a man that is hasty in his words? There's more hope for a fool than for him. So sometimes we just say too much, don't we? Don't be so hasty to have to say something about that. Just let it go. Think about how empty Facebook would be if people weren't so hasty to just have to say something. You ever thought about that? They say some of the outlandish things on there, and they shouldn't have typed it and sent it out. So they need to delete it, don't they? All right, falsehood and truth. That's the next category. Proverbs 6:19 was the first verse that came up on this, so I ran with this one. There's a lot about falsehood and truth. A false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among the brethren. I probably got to go back and look that up, but those are the things that God hates. A false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among the brethren. Proverbs 10:18. He that hideth hatred with lying lips. Isn't that a good way to translate that? Lying lips. He hideth hatred with lying lips, and he that uttereth a slander is a fool. Proverbs 12:17. He that speaketh truth showeth forth righteousness, but a false witness deceit. truth and falsehood. Proverbs 12:19. The lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. You know, it's hard to keep your lies straight, isn't it? People that are good at lying have to have real good memories. They'll forget their lies, see, and they'll get caught up and they'll expose themselves. So the lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. And you might get a little advantage out of a lie. I mean, you can tell a lie right now. It might get me just a little, but it's just going to be for a moment. In the long run, it's not going to help you. It's going to hurt you. Proverbs 12:22. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but they that deal truly are his delight. Lord knows that. Lord loves people that deal truly. But those liars, you know, in Revelation, we read all liars have their part in the lake that burneth with fire and brimstone, don't we? Proverbs 13:5. A righteous man hateth lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and cometh to shame. So be careful what you say. You don't want to be caught up in lies. Proverbs 14:5. A faithful witness will not lie, but a false witness will utter lies. That just seems so evident, doesn't it? But yet, when it's put out in a proverb like that, you remember it. Proverbs 17:4. A wicked doer giveth heed to false lips, and a liar giveth ear to a naughty tongue. There's that word naughty. Liars love lies, don't they? They like to hear them, and they like to repeat them. Proverbs 19:5. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. 19:9. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall perish. That's what it means. You're not going to escape, you're going to perish. Those two are almost the same right there, aren't they? Just a few verses apart. One says they won't escape. The other said they'll perish. Proverbs 20 and verse 17. Bread of deceit. Think of that. Bread of deceit is sweet to a man, but afterwards his mouth shall be filled with gravel. Have you ever had gravel in your mouth? I pick things out of the garden sometimes that wasn't cleaned up, and then I just, with the dirt, you know. And so it might taste sweet at first, but you're going to wind up with a mouthful of gravel if you're wanting lies and you're speaking lies. Proverbs 21 and verse 6. The getting of treasures by a lying tongue is vanity, tossed to and fro of them that seek death. Proverbs 24:28. Be not a witness against thy neighbor without cause. Deceive not with lying lips. You know, when we testify in court, they make us take a little oath, don't they? Do you promise to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And you know, there's people that'll lie, but when they take that oath, sometimes that makes them think, And they're a little more prone to tell the truth if they'll say that. Now, for us, it ought to be yea, yea, and nay, nay. Whether we swear on the Bible, put our hand on the Bible and swear or whatever, we're going to tell the truth anyway. But it does kind of it makes you think twice about telling the lie then when you have to do that. Proverbs 25:14. Who so boasteth himself of a false gift is like clouds and wind without rain. Now, in the dry season, you need a rain. And you look up and boy, here's the wind blowing the clouds in, and you want it's going to rain, and then the rain doesn't come, and how disappointing that is. So also is he that boasteth himself of a false gift. Oh, I'll take care of that for you. I'll do it. And then he doesn't do it. He's just like a cloud blowing over that didn't rain when you're needing rain. Proverbs 25:18. A man that beareth false witness against his neighbor is a maul and a sword and a sharp arrow. Proverbs 26:18 and 19. As a madman who casteth firebrands, arrows, and death, so is the man that deceiveth his neighbor and saith, am not I in sport? In other words, I tell you, it's just like fire. When you've been deceived and you don't like it, do you? And so be careful, be careful. Proverbs 26:24 and 25. He that dissembleth with his lips, dissembleth. Well, see, he's saying it in such a way that he's going to confuse you. That's what it means to dissemble, to create confusion. It's deceitful. He that dissembleth with his lips and layeth up deceit within him, when he speaketh fair, believe him not. For there are 7 abominations in his heart. I mean, you can't believe him when he tells the truth. He's already dissembled so much now, and you can't believe the truth out of him anymore. He's lost the ability to, he's lost his credibility is what he's done. Proverbs 26:28. A lying tongue hateth those that are afflicted by it, and a flattering mouth worketh ruin. I thought about having one on flattery, and I could have done that category, flattery. You know, there's compliments, and compliments are genuine, and we like to have compliments. But a flatterer, I tell you what, you've heard of being buttered up, hadn't you? You know, when you butter something up, you're fixing to fry it, aren't you? That's why they're buttering you up. That flattery is deceitful. It might be a compliment, but it's not a genuine compliment. It's a compliment used to manipulate and to take advantage of you. And here it's compared to a lying tongue. Beware the flatterer. Proverbs 28:23. He that rebuketh a man afterward shall find more favor than he that flattereth with his tongue. You know, sometime you need a rebuke, and you won't like it when you get it. But again, in the long run, you'll appreciate the wisdom and the friend that came up to rebuke you. But those that just flatter you, they're not helping you. They're not helping you. So the rebuke is better. Let's go to the next category. I think we won't have time to get through all this, I don't think. I'm going to talk about 5 more minutes, but it'll get us started here. One of the categories on being careful what you say is foolishness and wisdom. People talk a lot of foolishness, and some people have words of wisdom. So Proverbs discusses this. The wise in heart will receive commandments, but a prating fool shall fall. Prating fool. The next one. He that winketh with the eye causes sorrow, but a prating fool shall fall. What's a prating fool? Well, you've heard people, they just can't be quiet, and all they do is talk a bunch of nonsense. It's just a prating fool, and you don't want to hear it anymore, do you? A prating fool. Proverbs 10:13. The lips of him that hath understanding, wisdom is found. In the lips of him that hath understanding, wisdom is found. But a rod is for the back of him that is void of understanding. Proverbs 10:14. Wise men lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction. Proverbs 10:19. In the multitude of words there wanteth not sin. Now that means it's not lacking. Wanteth, it means there's no lack. There's abundance of it. In the multitude of words there's no lack for sin, but he that refraineth his lips is wise. Oh, we can save ourselves so much trouble if we could learn to refrain those lips and not be that prating fool. Proverbs 11:12. He that is void of wisdom despiseth his neighbor, but a man of understanding holdeth his peace. You don't have to say it. And sometimes the best thing to do is just don't say anything. Hold your peace. Proverbs 12:23. A prudent man concealeth knowledge. That's again holding it back. He's looking around. Prudent usually means in Proverbs that someone kind of looking around. He was aware. Okay, but the heart of fools proclaimeth foolishness. They just say anything. They just can't. And you can tell sometimes they just shouldn't have said that. It was foolish. Proverbs 14:3. The mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them. Proverbs 15:2. The tongue of the wise useth knowledge aright, but the mouth of the fool poureth out foolishness. Proverbs 15:7. The lips of the wise disperse knowledge. The heart of the foolish doth not so. Proverbs 16:21. The wise in heart shall be called prudent, and the sweetness of the lips increaseth learning. What a beautiful expression. The sweetness of the lips. And this is the wise of heart that have the sweetness of the lips. They know how to say, they know what to say, and they know how to say it. And they know how to say it in a way that it is received. So the sweetness of the lips. Proverbs 16:23. The heart of the wise teacheth his mouth, and addeth learning to his lips. The heart teaches the mouth. Okay? Remember the heart, this is the Bible heart. It's the mind. And the heart teaches the mouth. Excellent speech becometh not a fool, much less do lying lips a prince. 17:27, he that hath knowledge spareth his words. A man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. Proverbs 17:28, I like this one. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise. You ever been around somebody just, he's not saying anything. Like that old man river. He must know something because he don't say nothing, you know. And so if you just be quiet, sometimes people will think you're wise. Maybe you didn't have anything to say, but that's better than opening your mouth and revealing that you're a fool, isn't it? He that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. Now, he may not be, but at least he was smart enough not to say anything. And people, he knows something. He might, if I could draw that out, you know. So, Proverbs 18:4. The words of a man's mouth are as deep waters. Don't you love that? And the wellspring of wisdom is a flowing brook. Deep water. He has thought, he doesn't have shallow thoughts. He's thought deeply about this. And then a brook, it just keeps flowing. It's always refreshing. Always, you can go to him and you'll always get those good words because he's thought deeply about this. Proverbs 23:9. Speak not in the ears of a fool, for he'll despise the wisdom of thy words. There's some folks you just can't tell them anything, and you just soon not even try. You can tell a fool, but it's not going to help you. They'll just despise you. And so wisdom will help you distinguish who that is. But you're just not going to be able to explain some things to some folks. They're not going to listen. Proverbs 24:7. Wisdom is too high for a fool. He openeth not his mouth in the gate. Now the gate, that'd be the city gate, where decisions are made about the city and all. And you just don't want the fool there in the midst of those wise men at the city gate. And he hears these, and he doesn't know what they're talking about. It's just too high for him. So he may be a fool, but at least he had enough sense to keep his mouth shut. And that's better than some of us have done sometime. Proverbs 26, 4 and 5. I'm going to go over just a little and we'll get through the foolishness and wisdom. But look at this. One verse, verse 4 says, answer not a fool according to his folly. The next verse says, answer a fool according to his folly. Well, now it takes wisdom to know when to do what. But it says, answer not a fool according to his folly, because in some cases you're going to be just like him. It's like a fella said, don't wrestle with a pig, you know. You're just going to get dirty and the pig's going to enjoy it. So don't do that. So answer not a fool. You're going to be just as big a fool if you're trying to argue with a fool. But then at other times, you need to answer the fool so he'll be wise in his own conceit. You need to answer that fool. So you got to know when to and when not to. It's not always easy to tell. And then Proverbs 31:26. The virtuous woman. Here's one of her traits. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. Well, I won't get through these others. I'm going to go on to the invitation song, but we'll talk about there's good and harm, several on good and harm. There's tale bearers. I want to show you this. Fella said, where does the Bible say you can't gossip? And the fella said, 2 Peter 2:1, there'll be false prophets among the people, even as there'll be false teachers among you who shall probably bring in damnable hearsays. That's what he said. Damnable hearsays. Well, it's not hearsays, it's heresies. But he pronounced it hearsays about gossip. Well, that's what a talebearer is. He's the one spreading hearsays, okay? So, talebearers, kindness, kings and witnesses. There's 4 there about that. I just kind of group. You got to be careful what you say around kings and judges, don't you? You better be careful. And then curses and praise. And that's the last one. So that's far we'll go. Here'll be the invitation song. Be careful what you say. I might go back and finish those out another night. Give me a little feedback on that. Proverbs is a kind of interesting book to teach like that. But each little saying, I'll tell you what you can do with Proverbs. 31 chapters. Read it 12 times in a year. That'd be a chapter a day. And some days you have to read 2 chapters, but most months have 30 or 31. You can pretty well read Proverbs, and you'll be wise at the end. All those little wise sayings scattered throughout that book. So be careful what you say. I'll tell you one thing you need to say. Here's what you need to say. I believe Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. Now, that's something you need to say. And if you make that confession, on that basis of that faith, if that's confessing your faith, we can baptize you into Christ. And if you need to do that, then you do it while we stand and sing this song.